Hi, I'm Author Assist, proud sponsor of the 3-Act Structure Show on the GoIndieNow platform. Author Assist offers affordable services and one-on-one training to independent authors. I help them from brainstorming an idea to publishing and the promotion and marketing of the book. I have 2 podcasts, Narrations by KK and Behind the Pen. I'm the host of the radio show Author Assist on the Artist First Radio Network, and I'm also a multi-award-winning filmmaker. Love creating book trailers. I'm also a graphic designer and offer at least another 20 services that will help authors navigate and stand out. If you're a new author and you're holding the copy of your book in your hands, thinking, now what? That's when you need Author Assist. Contact me for a service sheet at kgantusauthораssist@gmail.com.
When we deconstruct the elements of story and its structure, whether you acknowledge 3 acts or not, our focus shifts to one aspect that connects us all: the characters. Since the dawn of storytelling itself, there has always been one side's hero and one side's villain. Now, where you may fall in who you support or relate to might shift, but it's always there. However, these days, it's even more layered and complicated. When we have been able to nuance and finite roles and involvement, gray the black and white. It's that examination we will be doing this season. And we'll be doing it in 3-act structure. Have we grown tired of the superhero? Are we so bored and jaded from the stories we've absorbed? Or are we slowly climbing our way to a renaissance where just a helping hand and a little bit of magic makes us believe again in the protagonist?
Joshua Pentellaresco. I've written 6 books, 5 of them epic poems, 1 novel. I've been published all kinds of places. I also have a podcast, and as you can tell, I have a big mouth.
Hi, I'm Nikki Nelson Hicks, and I write a lot of different genres, from speculative fiction, horror, murder mysteries, monsters, pretty much all the things.
Hi, I'm Julia. I write as J.K. Allen, and I'm an author and editor, and you can find me at hijingswriter.com.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Junta. I am the author of the Soul Cavern series, and I'm also a freelance editor, and I've been working in publishing since like 2008. I don't know how long that is. I don't math.
Well, I am Jennifer. I'm a writer. I write horror, dark fantasy. I've got 5 books. I also do some editing, and I'm a super nerd about lots of stuff to do with horror and dark fantasy as well. So I love talking about it.
I'm real excited about this. I mean, obviously, nobody else was because it didn't get voted on very well. But you can't have a character sheet without having a protagonist. I mean, it's just like impossible. So, and you know, I don't know. I mean, yeah, everybody's in love with the anti-hero, and yeah, that was a great show, and there was a lot of good talk about it, and I'm sure it'll cross over here today, and we'll talk about it as well. But so that's where I kind of want to start. Has the modern day hero gone the wayside? I mean, has it evolved for any of you, or do you feel like there's some value in embracing the heritage of the hero and taking the journey with them and kind of doing it the way that we've all known stories to be done with the hero? I mean, how does everybody feel about that?
Do you mean hero as in paladin type hero, the Superman, Wonder Woman, perfectly good individual?
Your protagonist from a day ago.
They're boring.
Protagonist is umbrella, and anti-hero is also protagonist. Protagonist is the person.
Right, but I want to concentrate more on the classic hero.
He wants to talk about the boring ones.
I actually I'm going to shoot that down. I don't think they're boring at all.
Oh,
right.
Because
it can be.
No. Because here's the thing. I'll give you the best example of a protagonist that's heroic that a lot of people root for, and that's simple. Spider-Man. Spider-Man comes from the classic Joseph Campbell line of Percival type heroes.
Truth.
That hero never gets boring. And the reason why is really it's twofold. Number one, when they start, they're very much like the reader. They don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. And they're finding out as you're finding out. And it's one of the reasons why that always works is because I don't know what's happening. You don't know hey, I don't know what's happening too. Cool, right? Forms that bond right away. But here's the other thing. They can be flawed, right? But even beyond that, lots of epic fantasy, horror,
Yes.
right? It's everywhere. And it's still everywhere. And it always will be everywhere. Why? It works. It always works because here's the difference. Like, this is the thing about today versus today. They're more sophisticated now because this story, like, we tell a lot more stories per annum than we ever have. So figuring out new twists to it is the challenge. But to be perfectly blunt, now the hero character is actually probably still as big, if not bigger, than it's ever been. The only difference now is again, lots of other people are taking their cracks at it.
But when you've got a perfectly formed individual character, such as, say, Superman, Wonder Woman, these are perfect. And I'm not talking about the newer ones, I'm talking about the old time. They're hard to work with because they're perfect. In the old days, Wonder Woman's biggest flaw was what? She couldn't get a boyfriend. Really, seriously, what the fuck was that all about? But now they've given her another in her comics now. She's much more. They gave her some flaws because they knew they had to give her flaws. The reason it's really hard to do a Wonder Woman or Superman movie is because they're kind of dull. They're too perfect. One of the things I never liked about Star Trek was that everyone in Star Trek, and I'm talking the old Star Trek, everybody in Star Trek, even the new generation, everyone's so already self-actualized. Everyone's so good. Not a damn person has a worry or what I want to be a little. Well, they don't have a worry or what they want. They'll get it. They have no needs. And
I think you both make great points with that. Like, the hero is classic. It'll never go away because, I mean, I'm a huge Joseph Campbell fan. So the hero's journey for me is excellent, but at the same time, the hero can be, like Nikki was saying, just boring, like, because they don't necessarily always put flaws in, but I blame, the creator, obviously, whoever's writing it, if they make, like, the whole Mary Sue trope.
Right.
Or Gary Sue trope. Nobody wants to follow a character that already starts off having everything they need and they don't have any real conflict. They don't have flaws. They don't have weaknesses. No one likes that kind of hero. But again, it's not that the hero itself, that trope has soured. It's all what you do with it as a creator.
And as a society, you think perhaps society prefers now heroes that are a bit more dense in them? We got more pulpy, more noir. We like our heroes to have a dent.
I think
we're more cynical.
I also think that there's a big difference between modern life and that, like, life around our classical literature, because now we want to be able to relate to the people. It's, to the characters. It's not just about escapism for escapism's sake. When The Great Gatsby was published, they wanted to know about the rich and famous, right? Like, so it has to do, I think, more with where we are as a culture than necessarily whether it's good or bad. It's boring to us because we know that human beings are flawed. We know that even if they look perfect, there's probably something dark up under there that is not okay, right? That's what we wait for. And so I think that the change in the way our heroes, and I think that's why there's so much gravitation toward the anti-hero, because it, in many, many ways, feels more realistic.
But I actually do not like anti-heroes that much because it just seems like I just don't like people that are just like jerks in books. Like, I really like to like a character, and that's not to say like I can't read a book that has like a problematic character in it or anything like that, but like for me to really root for a character, I have to find something like redeemable about them, I guess. And so for me, like when you guys are talking about these hero tropes, like heroes can be personable. Heroes can be relatable. Like, I think there's so many different types of heroes. Like, you know, you mentioned Iron Man as a hero. Well, he's super flawed. You know, he's got a ton of personality traits that, you know, people would think are kind of jerky, but, you know, at the end of the day, he is still trying to do the right thing. And I think that the reluctant hero for me rings more true than like the anti-hero who's in it.
I love the reluctant.
He's in it for himself and maybe does the right thing sometimes because it works out with his personal goals. But I don't really root for a character like that as much as I do like a reluctant hero or something.
I'm with you.
It's all about seeing change, right? Like a dynamic action. Because again, you don't want them starting out here and then just staying there, because that's where it gets dull. You want to see them start out like, you know, like you were saying before, how they don't know anything, you don't know anything, nobody knows anything, and everyone grows together and everyone's challenged together and everyone learns and maybe finds a new way to see the world. And in the meantime, you've got this hero they may not be perfect, they shouldn't be perfect, because no one is, but they've got something about them that no matter what they go through, there's still something that is pure about them, that no amount of hardship is going to fully destroy them, which is what makes them different from the anti-hero, right? Because like a lot of times with the anti-hero, there is no redeeming qualities. So, you know, sometimes it is kind of hard to stay rooting for them.
Right, and I think that characters can have a moral compass. It may be skewed or wrong, but they still have that compass they follow, and then you can find yourself rooting for them, because even if they're doing the wrong thing or making mistakes, you see why they're doing it, and there's value in that.
Well, yeah, like look at The Godfather. These are horrible, evil, wicked mafiosos doing terrible things, but part of you kind of roots because they have a code.
They have a moral code.
Right.
A moral code. It may not match my moral code.
Think of one of the most popular heroes, like outside of comic books, Frodo from The Lord of the Rings, right? The hero's not always the protagonist. We're following Frodo on this terrible, like arduous journey, and you see him start as something good and innocent, and he's slowly corrupted over time by this evil ring. And when it comes to the moment of truth, he fails. Like, he's going to keep the ring, and that's that. And it ends up being one of the antagonists who kind of saves the day, and then his friend Sam, who truly, I would say, is the hero of the piece.
He's the hero. Yeah. Yeah, that's what a hero does. A hero teaches us that we can fall but still get back up. That's got to be what the hero story teaches us. Because, I mean, all stories teach us something, and that's got to be the point of a hero. We have to see the hero eventually survive, fight against the dragon or fight against the great big whatever. But then in the end, they always survive and win. So, yeah. Okay, so that's what they teach us.
Heroes a lot of times have that, like, dark night of the soul moment where they do fail, and that's what we learn, is that they don't give up after they fail. They keep going, and Frodo realizes his mistake, and I think he pays for it in the end. I mean, he's got that wound that, you know, never heals. So I mean, I think he goes through a lot of like turmoil and stuff to kind of pay for the mistake that he ends up making, but he does find redemption in the end, you know.
And if you go by the classic hero's journey definition, usually hero stories are often about family. Like, family is a big part of the hero story. Talk about our family connections, where we're coming from, and also where we're going. Because
it's a circle. You start here. You always end up back home, but you're not home.
No,
home is never home again.
And that's the same. And that's why that's such a fascinating thing, because I think we all can relate to this on this level too. I don't know about you, like, I can look at my parents and I can see where I am like them, for good and for bad. And right, we all have those like little dark moments of the soul. It's like, oh my gosh, I see where I come from.
I'm turning into my mother.
That's what I'm in therapy.
Yeah, no, exactly, right, exactly. But in so doing, when we see that, we understand our parents better, understand our family better. And then at that point, all of us make choices, right? What do we like about who we were? And who can we become as a result? And that's again, all of us, that's a different answer. And the same with the heroes. Percival, the classic hero's journey. Percival, he damages his family when he gets the Grail by accident, and spends the rest of his life saying, you know what, I'm going to try to be the very best I can, and I'm going to find again and restore amends. It's actually a beautiful story. I would also argue he doesn't really win, but he learns. And
learning is winning. Yeah, learning is winning. Can be very dangerous.
I think there are different kinds of winning.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Evolution is always winning.
I think the hero's journey is also about found family, because it's the people you meet along the way on the journey that become your family and that you go through trials and tribulations with. And that kind of almost becomes more important than necessarily your original family.
Oh, God, yes.
And I think a lot of heroes, surprisingly, a lot of them start out without family.
Right.
You know, but that's still because they have that lack of family. They're orphans or whatever, or maybe they have a bad relationship with one or more parents. That's kind of like their low-key goal the whole time is, how do I get this thing I've always wanted but never had?
Find the tribe. Finding your tribe. Yeah, that's just true. Look at Disney. Disney's always killing off parents. But
but again, it's a classic. It's
part going back to Campbell. Going back to Campbell.
I used to when I did an essay for an anthology called The Modern Day Percival, comparing Aragon to Percival, and in so doing, I was looking at all these other stories. What I realized, and it completely ruined epic fantasy for me, was that almost every version of epic fantasy has, on some level or another, a Joseph Campbell concept. It's almost all there. So, in terms of the formula of telling a fantasy story, like Campbell, like you cannot ignore Campbell's impact on that, especially on that genre, right? Yeah. But again, part of the reason why no parents, no known origins, right? The mystery, it's part of the mystery of the character, but it's also the blank slate. It's because if they have a history, it's much harder for a person to relate to a blank slate. And that's what the hero's journey often is. They're blank slates for a reason. It's that connected, right? So
you start off with tabula rasa and you move on. Okay.
Let's talk about your impact on the hero. How are you approaching a hero story when you created it? Are you building blocks by block? I mean, this is one of those things where the hero is well defined through most of the writing that we do. So how are you defining it?
So my current story is when we mentioned the Knights of the Round here, I took the Knights of the Round and I made them all bad guys. Percival's a genie in my story. It would be great. So I had a lot of fun with it. My main character, though, so one of my favorite archetypes is Parker, like from the old crime novels, like the rich. I can't remember the name of the author. I read it when Darwin Cook did his take on the Parker crime novels. The thing that really inspired me is like, what makes a good person, right? And so my hero is my protagonist is trying to figure out what it's like to become a good person or to become heroic. And one of the ideas is developing a code of honor. If nothing else, you can keep your word. And she constantly surprises me, right? Because where she started and where she is, and that struggle of doing the right thing versus what you want to do, sometimes they don't go hand in hand. And I think sometimes it's much more interesting because again, it's humanity. We don't always do the right thing, and sometimes we are the villain in our own story. And when you're aware of that, when you actually are honestly aware of your own flaws, right? And do you try to change them, or are you actually okay with some of them too? And that's a much more interesting dilemma than being just a traditional hero. But that's what I'm working with.
I'm a terrible god because this character, Jake, I basically just torture him for 6 stories. I just put him in worse and worse and worse situations and then watch him squiggle and get around. And he stays good pretty much for the most part. But I just tortured him and had a great time watching him get out of scrapes, watching him fight different monsters or different problems and just deal with all these things. I'm just tossing at him. And for me, it's just great fun to watch that happen. But I'm a bad god.
That makes you a wonderful god.
He came through. He survived all this. I call these the New Orleans cycle. He survived New Orleans. Now he's gone. He's in LA. The next cycle is going to be in LA, but he'll survive. Probably, I'm sure, of course, he's the hero. But he will have issues. I mean, he changes a lot in these books. The poor guy just starts out as a dude just trying to find his friend and ends up, golems and fish monsters and, all the things. So fun.
My heroes just kind of, they vary. So like I've got a couple stories where the heroines are a little younger and they've not necessarily had the easiest lives, but they have that idealism, that so many young people have until the world really shows how it can kick them in the ass. But then I've got heroes. They're not quite anti-heroes because they're not that dark, but they're damaged enough when you start out that they end up, it's almost like a redemption arc because they start off from such a low place and then they have to learn, something inspires them to try to crawl back up. So I find those are like interesting because again, it's about movement, dynamism. How is your character changing, like based on what you're doing to them? You want to, and I do throw a lot of crap at them myself.
It's so much fun.
My heroes would beat me in real life. You put me through this?
I hope that'll be my hell. And I'll go to hell and it'll just be my heroes that are cracking their knuckles going, all right, bitch, you're going down. That'll be it.
I don't tend to use the hero label because I'm not comfortable with the gendered bit. So I tend to talk about protagonists rather than heroes or heroines or things of that nature. I tend to not really... Joe, you asked if we kind of know where things are going and how they're going to change. I have a general idea of that. I usually know what kind of things are going to get thrown at them. Like this character has in the beginning of the book, has a very close relationship with her dad, but she learns a horrible secret about him that she just cannot reconcile with the man that she knows. And that causes, on top of all the shit that's actually happening to her, that has very little to do with her dad, that has to do with other people and creatures and things. She's also got this thing that she's carrying with her about her dad and this anger and this feeling of betrayal and all this kind of stuff. And that sort of informs some of her decisions because there are points where she could go to her father and he could help her, but she chooses not to do that because the things he's done is so against her moral code that she can't get past that, And so it actually, that kind of carries on until the third book of the series that I'm in process of and have been for longer than I want to admit.
It happens to us all.
When I'm writing any character, but especially like the protagonist, I focus on three things. Flaws, first of all, because I want them to not be perfect and to have flaws and be relatable and, someone the reader can connect with. Of course, they're going to have a story goal. So they're going to have a goal that they're working towards. But a big one for me is motivation. So like going back to the Breaking Bad conversation, I think it's his motivations that define him and what he does. Which therefore are going to get in the way along with the flaws of him getting his goal, right? So it really changes who he is. So I think if you have those three things in mind, then you can definitely write like a strong character and it helps guide the story where it's going because like I said, depending on their motivation, they're going to make different decisions. They're going to choose different things and you'll see them morph. I really like what everyone's been saying about, dynamic characters and evolving and growing. And that's why they're interesting because they do change along the way.
What do you really enjoy about writing the hero? What is it? What makes you happiest when you get down to it about writing a hero or, Vanessa, a protagonist?
I like when I've thrown everything at the character and they drag themselves through the pits of hell and pull themselves out.
Yes.
That's the part I love because
me too.
Like a reader, I'm rooting for my character. I mean, yes, I'm doing horrible things to them, but I'm rooting for them. I want them to pull themselves out. There are certain things that I've learned over my life. I am old and I've learned things, and I try to do right. And most times I think I do, and then sometimes I don't. But there are some things that I've learned that I can also convey in my writing. Mm-hmm. And if I can teach somebody the shit that I learned at like 50 years old, if they can learn it by 25, excellent.
If I would break it down, it's just their courage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Yes. Here's the thing.
And perseverance.
Well, I was just going to say it like this. I don't even care if the hero wins. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if the hero wins. What matters is where you stand, right, in the face of this unbearable obstacle, right? You put in front of them, whatever that might be, because that's real. Our characters in real life are measured by what we stand up for, what we believe in, and what we're willing to do with those beliefs. Heroes are the same way. They just take it to the next step, and they actually do something about some stuff sometimes. Those are when people are at their most heroic and noble. And that to me is my favorite part. And also, I mean, my second favorite part about that is sometimes they surprise me. And that's always been better.
Yeah. That's good too.
I like that.
Yeah, I just love their journey. Like, beginnings of any story, beginnings are usually my favorite because, you know, I like seeing how the world gets set up. I like seeing how I first get to know the character, and, you know, then you watch them change. And, you know, for the heroes, sometimes you watch them change a lot because they tend to get the most heat. They tend to go through the most amount of crap. And yet, while it changes them, there's still always that, like you said, the perseverance. There's still, and courage. There's always still them inside, like their shell. You know, they're never going to get fully destroyed. And then by the time you reach the climax, which you're so ready for by the time it happens, you're just like, wow, look at this person. Just, a lot of us would be like, okay, I give up. But, you know, the hero never gives up.
Yeah, I read a lot of like young adult characters. And so for me, it's really important to not have an ideal character, but to have like someone that would have been a good role model for me when I was that age. Someone like you talk about the courage, the everyday courage of doing the right thing instead of what's easy, or, you know, what, you know, you could do to save face. Like, you're going to go save your friend, even though you don't have experience fighting or anything like that. You're still going to go after your friend and try to help them out because it's the right thing to do. Like, so I really love writing characters, like I said, that, you know, strive for something better, like to be the person they want to be.
I try to look at the positive in life, so I want to know that there's a way that we can pull ourselves out of this muck.
And they defeat the antagonist. I like that. I like what, because it is no way in life. In life, sometimes the antagonist wins, but in my stories, most of my stories, yes, the protagonist does defeat the antagonist, and wine is shared by all because it's my story and I can do what I want.
I don't know who says it, but it's just like fantasy and fiction doesn't teach us that there's dragons. It teaches us that we can slay the dragons.
Chesterton. Chesterton. He said that.
Yeah. And I just really love that quote because that's what the hero does for you, is that it's not that you won't go through hard things in your life, but it's that you can overcome it just like they do.
Yes. And that's such an important message that we all need from time to time, especially the world is not getting any easier. Right. You know, a hero story every now and then, it's one of those things that can kind of keep you going because it gives you hope, and we all need hope.
It's hard, people, and being a person is hard. So yeah.
Okay.
Was that good, Joe? Okay, that's time to Joshua to make us off the Okay, go ahead.
Why would I make you?
No,
so for me, I'm a big comic nerd. Like, I grew up a comic nerd. My hero. No, probably not. No, but I grew up reading Green Lantern, and the funny thing about Green Lantern is about the whole idea of overcoming fear.
Yeah,
that's what the ring can make anything you want, anything you imagine possible. What they really are always fighting is fear. So for the last, I'd say, year and a bit, I had this was my epiphany about fear, and I realized this ultimately comes from my love of heroes. Fear is a door to what you really want. Right? So fear is the door. Fear is only a prison if you stay still.
Yep.
It's a door if you go forward. Because on the other side of that door is exactly what you want.
You all are my heroes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.